Good afternoon, second graders. I wanted to be able to read to you Gooney Bird. So if you want to pause this video and find your comfy, cozy spot, you're absolutely welcome to do that. And when you are all ready, push play, and we're going to read chapter 5 of our Gooney Bird chapter. All right, my friends. So we found out that Gooney Bird was able to find a room mother. But she said that the room mother was incognito, incognito. So let's figure out what that means. Chapter 5. With the identity disguised or hidden, Mrs. Pigeon read to the class from the dictionary. So our room mother doesn't want us to know who she is. Or he, she added, remembering Bailey Stevenson's father. It's a she, Gooney Bird said. I think it's okay to tell you that. But you're right, she wants it to be a secret. How did you cajole her, Trisha asked. Is it my mom? I couldn't cajole her. How did you? Is it mine, Barry asked. I bet it's mine. Did you pay her, Tyrone asked. If you paid her, it's mine. My lips are sealed, Gooney Bird said. Maybe it's mine, Kiko said. Maybe mine, said Felicia Ann. Oh, I hope it's mine. Malcolm rolled a piece of paper into a tube that looked like a telescope. Malcolm had a very hard time keeping his hands still. He called out loudly, if it's my mom, and if she brings those 3 babies to school, He scowled and sputtered and wrinkled his face and couldn't decide what he would do. Sealed, Gooney Bird repeated. What are your babies' names? Felicia Ann asked Malcolm. I love babies. I'm not saying, Malcolm replied with his lips. My lips are sealed. Mrs. Pigeon began to laugh. Well, class, Malcolm's not going to reveal the triplets' names, and Gooney Bird is not going to reveal the identity of our room mother, though I somehow suspect it might be someone who has decided that she didn't want to be chef at the White House. So I can tell that Mrs. Pigeon thinks it's Gooney Bird's mom. She looked at Gooney Bird, who shook her head. Tightly sealed, she said. Well, I'm delighted that we have one, Mrs. Pigeon said, and I will notify Mr. Leroy. But Gooney Bird, would you tell us, without revealing the name, of course, the absolute true story of how you cajoled her? Gooney Bird nodded. I guess I could do that, she said. She was already standing in the center of the room, and she began to take deep breaths, as she always did when she began a story. The Pilgrim and Native Americans all sat down on the floor. Kiko clapped her hands in delight. Malcolm stopped rolling the piece of paper into a tube, and Barry crept over to his desk and sat down quietly. Mrs. Pigeon turned around on the piano bench to listen. How Gooney Bird Got a Room Mother is the title, Gooney Bird began. Sometimes, she explained, a title should be a little mysterious. It should make you wonder what the story is about. I could have called this one An Exciting Phone Call, or maybe Incognito, Barry said from his desk. That would have been a great title. Gooney Bird nodded. Yes, it would. Good for you, Barry. I might change the title later, actually. You can do that. The title that you use first is called the working title. And my working title is How Gooney Bird Got a Room Mother. She looked down at herself. You know how usually in stories I try to describe what the main character looks like and what she is wearing? This is a little picture of Gooney Bird telling all the students about how she got a room mother. The children nodded. They had heard Gooney Bird tell many stories before. Well, she said, in this story, the main character is me. And as you see, today I'm wearing tap shoes, blue tights, red Bermuda shorts, and embroidered peasant top from Bavaria. Bavaria, murmured Felicia Ann. I've never heard of Bavaria before. It's quite an interesting outfit, I think, Gooney Bird said, but I've decided that this will not be included in the story. This story is going to be an all-dialogue story, no description. Class, Mrs. Pigeon said, and she went to the board and wrote dialogue, D-I-A-L-O-G-U-E. For a few moments, the room was silent, except for the pages of the dictionaries turning. I found it, called Ben. He read out loud. Words used by characters in a book. Or a story, Gooney Bird said. Okay, I'm going to begin. There are only two characters in this story. One is Gooney Bird Green, and the other is, oh, don't tell. She doesn't want you to tell, several children yelled. Well, Mrs. X, Gooney Bird said. I'm calling her Mrs. X. I'm starting my story with a sound effect. Listen. Bring, bring. Hello, Mrs. X said when she answered the telephone. Hello, said Gooney Bird Green. I'm calling from Water Tower Elementary School. Yes. Oh, my goodness, is something wrong at the school? Asked Mrs. X. I think it was my mom, said Pico. She always worries. She worries about chicken pox and unsanitary bathrooms and earthquakes. My mom worries too, said Trisha. Mine worries about kidnappers and unfriendly dogs. Mine worries about undercooked hamburgers, said Ben. Mine too, and swimming too soon after lunch. And wasps, said Chelsea. Not mine, Malcolm said glumly. Mine only worries about those triplets and diaper rashes. Please tell them their names, Malcolm. I love babies, Felicia Ann said in her soft voice. No, they're incognito. Class, Gooney Bird said impatiently, you are interrupting the story. Dialogue is supposed to flow smoothly. Sorry, everyone replied. But you did remind me of something. How much all moms worry about their children. So I'm going to interrupt the dialogue and insert something about that. What's that called when you do that? Beanie asked. Gooney thought and then shrugged. I don't know, she said. She looked at the teacher. Mrs. Pigeon? Mrs. Pigeon thought. And then she said, that would be called an authorial intrusion, I think. It's when the author intrudes to say something that really isn't part of the story, but I'm not even going to write that on the board. It isn't important. Well, here I go again, starting up again. Gooney Bird said. She took a deep breath and continued. All mothers worry about their children, not only human mothers, but animals. Once I had a cat who was always looking for her kittens and got very upset if they strayed too far away. Now picture if that cat was a human and her children went to school every day and she didn't know what was going on at school and suddenly someone called and Gooney Bird stopped and looked around. Malcolm started rolling his paper again, and Felicia Ann, seated on the floor, had put her head down on her knees, and Chelsea yawned. Sorry, Gooney Bird said. That is why authors should not intrude. It's boring. Back to the dialogue. No, Mrs. X, said Gooney Bird, there is nothing to worry about. I'm calling with a request. And what might that be? Not a solicitation for money, I hope. Mrs. X's voice sounded suspicious. I bet it's my mom, Beanie said. She hates when the phone rings and it's someone. Gooney Bird stared at Beanie. Sorry, said Beanie. No, I'm calling to tell you that you have been selected for a great honor. Right. Like the last time I got a call and they told me that I won a trip to Las Vegas, Mrs. X said. But then it turned out that I was supposed to pay taxes and handling charges and buy a membership in something. I think it was a health club. It's my mother, Barry announced loudly. I'm sure it's my mother. No, it's mine, said Tyrone. She almost bought a timeshare in Mexico, and it was a big scam. It's my mother, Nicholas and Trisha said together. Gooney Bird glared at all of them. When the room fell silent, she continued. Gooney Bird explained very patiently. No, she said, this is truly a great honor, not a scam at all. You have been chosen as room mother for Mrs. Pigeon's second grade class. Mrs. Pigeon was silent for a moment. She was dumbfounded. She was overcome. Are you still there? Gooney Bird asked. Yes, said Mrs. X. So may I tell everyone you said that? Said what? Asked Mrs. X. Yes, you said yes. I only meant yes, I'm still here. Please, please say yes, Gooney Bird said. Then I get to be Squanto. Mrs. X still didn't speak. And the principal will stop bugging Mrs. Pigeon, Gooney Bird added. The principal is doing that? Asked Mrs. X in an outraged voice. Indeed he is, Gooney Bird replied. Mrs. X didn't speak. The only thing you have to do is provide cupcakes. And you can come to the Thanksgiving pageant if you want and sit in a seat of honor. And also, Gooney Bird looked at Mrs. Pigeon. I hope you don't mind, but I said the next thing without asking your permission. What was that? Mrs. Pigeon asked. I hope you didn't say she'd get paid. We don't pay anything. I'll continue, Gooney Bird said. And also, Mrs. Pigeon, who wrote quite a fine song about succotash, will compose a second song, and its title will be Room Mother. Mrs. Pigeon began to laugh. All right, she said, I can do that. Gooney Bird looked relieved, and she continued. And, Gooney Bird told Mrs. X, we will all sing the song to you at the end of the pageant. There was a silence on the other end of the telephone. Then, Gooney Bird looked at the class. Guess what the next word will be, she said. You know what the next word is? Suddenly, they all shouted. They'd learned that from Gooney Bird, how important the word suddenly could be. You got it, Gooney Bird continued. Suddenly, Mrs. X started to laugh, and she said, yes, I'll do it. Thank you, Gooney Bird told her. On one condition, Mrs. X added. What is that? Until Thanksgiving, I'm incognito. My lips are sealed, said Gooney Bird. The end. The class clapped. Gooney Bird bowed. Mrs. Pigeon smiled. Gooney Bird, she said, you are Squanto, for sure. And that's the end of chapter 5. So I want you to think about who you thought the room mother could be. And I want you to think and revisit that prediction. And I want you to think, has it changed or has it stayed the same? Who do you think the room mother could be? Well, we're going to read chapter 6 tomorrow, and we are going to find out for sure. Have a great day, have fun, and learn a lot. And I will see you tomorrow morning.